Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 9, Text 33. So this is the first shloka of the Catuḥ-ślokī of Bhagavatam, which we started last Friday, and now we are continuing the purport by Srila Prabhupada. The other feature of the statement is that the supreme truth is Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead and his kingdom have already been explained. The kingdom of Godhead is not void as conceived by the impersonalists. The Vaikuntha planets are full of transcendental variegatedness, including the four-handed residents of those planets, with great opulence of wealth and prosperity. And there are even airplanes and other amenities required for high-grade personalities. Therefore, the personality of Godhead exists before the creation, and he exists with all transcendental variegatedness in the Vaikuntha Lokas. The Vaikuntha Lokas also accepted in Bhagavad Gita as being of the Sanatana nature, are not annihilated even after the annihilation of the manifested cosmos. Those transcendental planets are of a different nature altogether, and that nature is not subjected to the rules and regulations of material creation, maintenance, or annihilation. The existence of the personality of Godhead implies the existence of the Vaikuntha Lokas, as the existence of a king implies the existence of a kingdom. In various places in Srimad Bhagavatam and in other revealed scriptures, the existence of the personality of Godhead is mentioned. For example, in Bhagavatam 2.8.10, Maharaj Parikshit asks, Sachapiyatra Purusho Vishvastityudha Bhavpyaya Muktavatmam Mayam Mehesha Site Sarva Guhashaya. How does the personality of Godhead, the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, who is always freed from the influence of the illusory energy and is the controller of the same, lie in everyone's heart? Similar also is a question of Viduras in Bhagavatam 3.7.37. Tadvanam Bhagavam Stesham Katida Pratishankrama Tatremam Ka Upasyiran Cha Usvid Anusaryate. Sridhar Swami explains this in his notes. During the annihilation of the creation, who serves the Lord lying on the Sesha, etc. This means that the transcendental Lord, with all his name, fame, quality, and paraphernalia, exists eternally. The same confirmation is also in the Kasi Kand of the Skanda Purana, in connection with Dhruva Charita. It is said there, Nasyavante piyad bhakta mahatyam pralayad padi atochuto kile loke saeka sarva govyaya. Even the devotees of the personality of Godhead are not annihilated during the period of the entire annihilation of the material world, not to speak of the Lord himself. The Lord is ever existent in all three stages of material change. The impersonalist adduces no activity in the Supreme, but in this discussion between Brahma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is said to have activities also. As he is his form and quality. The activities of Brahma and other demigods during the maintenance of the creation are to be understood as the activities of the Lord. The king or the head executive of a state may not be seen in the government offices, for he may be engaged in royal comforts. Yet it should be understood that everything is being done under his direction, and everything is at his command. The personality of Godhead is never formless. In the material world, he may not be visible in his personal form to the less intelligent class of men, and therefore he may sometimes be called formless, but actually he is always in his eternal form as in his Vaikuntha planets, as well as in other planets of the universes as different incarnations. The example of the sun is very appropriate in this connection. The sun in the night sky may not be visible to the eyes of men in the darkness, but the sun is visible wherever it has risen. That the sun is not visible to the eyes of the inhabitants of a particular part of the earth does not mean that the sun has no form. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.4.1, there is the hymn Atmaya Vedham Agra Asit Purusha Vidhaha. This mantra indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, even before the appearance of the Purusha incarnation. In Bhagavad Gita 15.18, it is said that Lord Krishna is Purushottama, because he is the Supreme Purusha, transcendental even to the Purushakshara and the Purushakshara. The Akshara Purusha, or the Mahavishnu, throws his glance over Prakriti, or material nature, but the Purushottam existed even before that. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad therefore confirms the statement of the Bhagavad Gita that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Person, Purushottama. In some of the Vedas, it is also said that in the beginning only the impersonal Brahman existed. However, according to this verse, the impersonal Brahman, which is the glowing effulgence of the body of the Supreme Lord, may be called the immediate cause, but the cause of all causes, or the remote cause, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's impersonal feature is existent in the material world because by material senses or material eyes, the Lord cannot be seen or perceived. One has to spiritualize the senses before one can expect to see or perceive the Supreme Lord. But he is always engaged in his personal capacity, and he is eternally visible to the inhabitants of Vaikuntha Loka face to face. Therefore, he is materially impersonal, just as the executive head of the state may be impersonal in the government offices, although he is not impersonal in the government house. Similarly, the Lord is not impersonal in his abode, which is always nirasta kuhakam, as stated in the very beginning of Bhagavatam. Therefore, both the impersonal and personal features of the Lord are acceptable, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. This personality of Godhead is very emphatically explained in Bhagavad Gita in connection with the verse Brahmano hi pratistaham, Bhagavad Gita 14.27. Therefore, in all ways, the confidential part of spiritual knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead, and not his impersonal Brahman feature. One should therefore have his ultimate aim of realization not in the impersonal feature, but in the personal feature of the absolute truth. The example of the sky within the pot and the sky outside the pot may be helpful to the student for his realization of the all-pervading quality of the cosmic consciousness of the absolute truth. But that does not mean that the individual part and parcel of the Lord becomes the supreme by a false claim. It means only that the conditioned soul is a victim of the illusory energy in her last snare. To claim to be one with the cosmic consciousness of the Lord is the last trap set by the illusory energy, or Daivi Maya. Even in the impersonal existence of the Lord, as it is in the material creation, one should aspire for personal realization of the Lord, and that is the meaning of Paschadaham Yad Atachchayo Vashishyate, so smyaham. Brahmaji also accepted the same truth when he was instructing Narada. In Bhagavatam 2.7.50, he says, So yam yebi hitastata bhagavan vishvabhavana. There is no other cause of all causes than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Therefore, this verse, Aham Eva, never indicates anything other than the Supreme Lord, and one should therefore follow the path of the Brahma Sampradaya, or the path from Brahmaji to Narada to Vyasadeva, etc., and make it a point in life to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, or Lord Krishna. This is very confidential instruction to the pure devotees of the Lord, was also given to Arjuna and to Brahma in the beginning of the creation. The demigods like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are undoubtedly different forms of the Lord for execution of different functions. The different elemental ingredients of the material creation, as well as the multifarious energies, also may be of the same personality of Godhead, but the root of all of them is the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna. One should be attached to the root of everything, rather than be bewildered by the branches and leaves. That is the instruction given in this verse. Okay, next verse, the second verse of the Catuḥ-ślokī, verse 2.9.34. Praterotam yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani tadvidyad atmano mayam yathabaso yatatama. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Purport. In the previous verse, it has already been concluded that in any stage of the cosmic manifestation, its appearance, its sustenance, its growth, its interactions of different energies, its deterioration, and its disappearance, all has its basic relation with the existence of the personality of Godhead. And as such, whenever there is forgetfulness of this prime relation with the Lord, and whenever things are accepted as real without being related to the Lord, that conception is called a product of the illusory energy of the Lord. Because nothing can exist without the Lord, it should be known that the illusory energy is also an energy of the Lord. The right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship with the Lord is called Yoga Maya, or the energy of union. And the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is called the Lord's Daivi Maya, or Mahamaya. Both the Mayas also have connections with the Lord because nothing can exist without being related to him. As such, the wrong conception of detaching relationships from the Lord is not false, but illusory. Misconceiving one thing for another thing is called illusion. For example, accepting a rope as a snake is illusion, but the rope is not false. The rope, as it exists in the front of the illusion person, is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting the material manifestation as being divorced from the energy of the Lord is an illusion, but it is not false. And this illusory conception is called the reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. Anything that appears as apparently not being produced out of my energy, meaning the Lord's energy, is called Maya. The conception that the living entity is formless or that the Supreme Lord is formless is also illusion. In Bhagavad Gita 2.12, it was said by the Lord in the midst of the battlefield that the warriors standing in front of Arjuna himself, and even the Lord had all existed before. They were existing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and they would all continue to be individual personalities in the future also, even after the annihilation of the present body, and even after being liberated from the bondage of material existence. In all circumstances, the Lord and the living entities are individual personalities, and the personal features of both the Lord and the living beings are never abolished. Only the influence of the illusory energy, the reflection of light in darkness, can, by the mercy of the Lord, be removed. In the material world, the light of the sun is also not independent, nor is that of the moon. The real source of light is the Brahmajyoti, which diffuses light from the transcendental body of the Lord, and at the same time is reflected in varieties of light. The light of the sun, the light of the moon, the light of fire, or the light of electricity. So the identity of the self as being unconnected with the Supreme Self, the Lord, is also an illusion, and the false claim that I am the Supreme is the last illusory snare of the same Maya, or the external energy of the Lord. So we'll stop here for today, and we'll continue the purport on Friday. Before we conclude, is there any comments, Dr. Suhu?
Yes, no, I always listen to you very carefully, and you have explained the things very properly. So I don't have, but I have little confusion actually. Actually, I just see everything in my perception. Like from the scenes from the childhood, I have faith on God. But when I said faith on God means I have multiple faiths. Like I believe on from the beginning, I believe on Sivji, and I believe on Krishna. I believe on all Sakti also. So I have multiple faiths. I believe on multiple gods. So now is it possible to have the multiple faiths? That is one question. That but as I said, that not a kind of I surrender, but not a kind of detachment, but a kind of living within the family, within the society. Certain kind of responsibility has been given to you, assigned to you, and that is also part of your duties. Is that something is wrong, or something is possible even within the family? You can have a surrender to God, and everything you can do within even the family, like household life.
So first I will respond to the first part. I'm just looking for something here to read, actually. Um, so as far as you're saying, having faith in Lord Shiva and Krishna and multiple gods, first we have to very clearly understand what is the actual conception behind uh, what is being said. It's not that um, there are multiple gods, so to speak, right? The idea of God as the supreme absolute truth is, or the supreme being, is that it is not one of many other beings, and it just happens to be that God is the best out of all the others, like the biggest mountain out of all other mountains. That's not what is meant by the absolute or the supreme being. It means that which all other beings derive their essence of being. So God, the absolute truth, is the reservoir of all other beings from which they derive their finite existence. Even if they're very great beings, very powerful beings, still they're finite and they're dependent upon that reservoir of being. So then we have to understand the conceptions from that point of view. So I'm reading here from the Brahma Samhita. I'm going to read just one verse from the Brahma Samhita about Lord Shiva. Basically, Lord Shiva is understood, right, as the best Vaishnava, actually. So here, and this is Brahma Samhita, verse 45. Shiram yatha dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayatena hitata pratagasti heto yasambhutam apitata samupaiti karyad govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither the same nor different from its cause, i.e. the milk. Similarly, I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. So Lord Shiva is a guna avatar, right? The guna avatars are Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, and it's explained in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the whole ontological expansion of the different aspects of that supreme being. So that reservoir of being then expands itself through different energies, the Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. and also as different avatars and incarnations in personal forms. So in the Guna avatars, Lord Shiva is coming for a specific duty. So he's very, very powerful. He's coming to destroy the material creation. But it's saying here that just as curd is formed from milk, you add acid to milk and it makes a yogurt, right? So that yogurt is coming from the milk, is directly coming from that milk. It's basically the same thing as milk, yet still it's different. You can never turn that yogurt back into milk, but still it's coming directly from the milk. So that's Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is like that yogurt, where he is very close to Krishna, actually. We're hearing many times throughout the scriptures, even there's a very pious aspect of Lord Shiva called Sada Shiva, who's actually in Vrindavan and actually has a role in Krishna's Rasa Leela as Sada Shiva, and as Gopeshwar, even the controller of the gopis. One of Shiva's names is Gopeshwar. So these things hint at the very exalted position of Lord Shiva as a Vaishnava, but still that is a Shakti, not Shakti Mam, the supreme being, the absolute. When you refer to God, is the supreme, is the Shakti Mam, the controller and source of the energy. And then so all these other demigods like Shiva and Brahma, and actually Shiva is even more than a demigod. He's, the demigods are actually Jiva Tattvas. The Lord is Vishnu Tattva, all the devotees and the demigods, they are Jiva Tattvas. But Shiva is actually having his own. He's a Shiva Tattva. He's distinct from even the Jivas and the demigods. But still, he is coming as a Vaishnava. He's still the energy of the Lord. He's Shakti, not Shakti Mam. So then when it comes to our personal devotion, how we are trying to have a proper conception so that when we practice devotion, it is actually leading to the desired result. We see Lord Shiva as a Vaishnava. So just as we give honor to all the Vaishnavas, we give honor to Lord Shiva, of course. But still, the worship of the Supreme Lord, of the source of all energies, of Shakti Mam, that is the higher thing. And that's what's being presented in Bhagavad Gita, also in Bhagavatam here. And so through following that, then we know that in order to get the fruit, or not the fruit, but to get to the desired result of worshiping the Lord, which is love for Krishna, Krishna Prem, we can only do that through serving the bona fide Vaishnava, the bona fide Guru, coming down in Guru Parampara. So we have to dovetail everything within this conception. Not that this is one conception on one hand, and then on the other hand, we have a completely different conception. And so if we have some idea like that, then actually we won't be making any progress at all. And we'll just be kind of stuck within our own thoughts. And there's no way to get out of that except through surrender. So that's what discipline, being a disciple means, to discipline our mind by not just following our own whims, by following our own attractions here or there, going so many directions without any real objective foundation, but subjective, but surrender to that which is outside of ourselves, which is a bona fide authority in this matter of spiritual development, and a bona fide authority of understanding what Veda is presenting, because they have already participated in that process of surrender and hearing and practicing very thoroughly and very sincerely, very humbly, very profoundly. So we have to understand things in that way, I think, as far as that is concerned. And then you have a second part to your question about family life, but do you want to make any comment about what I said there?
Yes, yes, absolutely right. Like very clearly you have said that, and very try to understand both Siva Tattva and Krishna Tattva, or the Lord Vishnu Tattva. So I have to take it in a kind of, as I understood, you mean to say that these two things are not different. Actually, when we go for Krishna Tattva is also the kind of Shiva Tattva, you mean to say that?
No, they are different.
They
Definitely,
are different.
they are different. That's why they are different tattvas. They are different, but Shiva is Shakti. Vishnu is Shakti Mam.
Okay. But at times, even Vishnu also, or Shiva, Lord
Sure,
Shiva.
of course,
And
you're right. But we're hearing how Krishna comes to serve his own devotees. So when Vishnu is worshiping Shiva, it's in that kind of mood where the Supreme is coming to worship his own devotee, to serve his own devotee.
see how one can come out of that contradiction, that what I presented. You said everything is that those who are guru and those who are following the path, they have sincerely and devotedly everything they have surrendered, realized. But a person who is in contradiction, and that how to overcome that contradiction and resolve the contradiction and say that this is one thing which I have to have.
What is the
You understand
contradiction?
what I'm saying? What I'm saying. Suppose, see, I believe in P exists. Also, I believe that P doesn't exist and something else exists. Suppose I believe in, I have faith, strong faith on Shiva, and also I have equally strong faith on Vishnu. Okay, and there is a dilemma where you have to go, like whether you have to, like a Arjun's dilemma, that whether you want to choose Vishnu or you want to go with Shiva, Lord Shiva. When it comes to faith, is there both places, and that strong faith is there in both places. But is it possible to have both contradiction and go further and do the surrender to God? Or you have to choose one path? So that's my question. Like you have to accept Shiva Tattva, or you have to accept Krishna.
Well, I'm not so sure you're hearing what I'm saying, is that Shiva Tattva is a Shakti,
No,
means
I got
energy.
it. Yes, it's an
So then,
energy.
if
So,
we're understanding that, then we're understanding Shiva as a Vaishnava.
okay.
And
Okay.
Vishnu is not a Vaishnava. Vishnu is who the Vaishnavas are worshiping.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
want to follow Lord Shiva, means following a Vaishnava, means following the worship of Lord Vishnu.
Uh-huh.
Shiva is a Vaishnava.
Okay.
So by following the example of Lord Shiva, that means we're still coming to the path of Krishna Bhakti.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for clarifying my doubts, and I'm so grateful. And yes, my sincere regards and gratitude, because you cleared my doubts.
Thank you, Dr.
Namaste.
Sahu. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Puri Maharaj.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila
Ki
Guru
Jai.
Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Okay.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Okay.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Nishringapoli Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai, Jai Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. All glories to the worldwide devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Sama Bhaktiveda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Jai Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Pramanandi, Hari 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 Bo, Tadava Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.